How's it going, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel, and today, as promised, I'm showing you the build from yesterday. If you haven't checked that out, link is going to be right up here. If you haven't checked that, go check it out. This is that build in action versus Kashtira, and I think that these are very interesting two games. This is like one match, and I lost the die roll. I went second both games, and this just shows you the power of all the utility you can now play in branded. Of course, before we begin, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel as always. If you do want some Despia merch, head over to my merch website, galzo.shop, in the description below. Check that out. If you want access to my builds before everybody else, join as a member. You can get access to our members only exclusive Discord channel, where I post all my deck lists before any video goes up. So this is gonna be I am gonna show both hands, and this is going to be a match versus Kashtira, and I'll show you a few interesting interactions that you need to remember when playing against this deck. They open nuts every single time. This is a 3, this is a 3, this is 3, everything is a 3 of in this deck. We open fine against Kashtira, I suppose. Super Poly is great. Lubellion is pretty nice. Foolish is meh, but we'll see. We go second, so this is a pretty good hand going second. I just give them the big thumbs up, and they're gonna do the board here. So a lot of Kashtira players, if you don't know this, haven't been playing that greedy anymore, and they just play super conservatively. People are playing Nib in the main, people are playing things like Lava Golem, stuff like that. This is a solid play out of Kashtira. If you put up this board, it's kind of harder to out because, you know, even though you have your zones, this is still a big ass floodgate. You have the birth to banish. They go for the preparations now, so they attach from this, then summon, then attach again, and of course the lance, just to make sure it doesn't get hit with the, you know, something like Book of Eclipse. It can actually protect it from Super Poly, but you have to shotgun it. So I start off my turn. I have a lot of options at this point to go in. I could go for the branded opening, but the first thing I want to do is to make sure that no cards get banished, and I want to get rid of this first. I could go for, like, you know, the discard, but I know I have a lot of discards to do during this turn anyway, and I know the Tragedy, if it gets banished or goes to the graveyard, it gets me to the Aluber anyway. So there's a few interesting options here to go in. Also, Foolish Burial, if you have like something like Thrust in your hand, you can just trigger the Arise Heart because everything gets banished, and it gets triggered every time because it's a mandatory effect. So here I start off with the Foolish to get myself a copy of Cartesia. It's going to get banished, and then Arise Heart is going to attach a card. I'm going to be searching for the Cartesia. So I set, because I have the opening already, I set the Tragedy, and just to avoid another discard, I go for the Super Poly right here, and I just take it out, and I go for the Mud Dragon. I don't play any other target that could be summoned off of this, but this is such a good target against Kashtira because all of their cards on the field target. Fenrir target, this targets, everything just targets. So you switch this to Dark, and it's really, really good. So I go for the Mud Dragon, I trigger the Tragedy, and then I search for the Adlib, switch to Dark, I go for the opening, that way I can get myself an Aluber, and I activate the Aluber to search the Theater. I'm just fully playing around Ash Blossom now. I felt like he had the Ash, I wanted to play around it, and I felt like I can also go for something like a Chimera now with the Lost, which gets me to draw, like add another card to my hand and draw another card. And now that I don't have the Arise Art, it's really easy to navigate through that. They don't control Kashtira monster, so Birth is not active at the moment. And I go for the Branded Lost Theater. I get the Theater, and they don't activate the preparations for some reason. I would expect them to, like, pretty much on Lost to maybe get a Fenrir on board, but they didn't do that. I use Aluber and Cartesia, that way I can get myself a Grand Guignol. Grand Guignol is going to trigger, Lost is going to trigger again, and this is how I search for the Branded Fusion, basically. I don't have access to Branded Fusion, I started Fusion Summoning, and now I can just search for a branded fusion with these two cards. So Serenir is going to dump. Yeah, I search the Albion, I show them, is gonna dump the Retribution to the graveyard. Then Albion is gonna go for a Branded in red, because here you could search any branded spell or trap with this combination. I do want to go for a Chimera here just to put extra pressure, get rid of the trap card, get rid of the Birth, which is really good against branded. And I have Adlib in the graveyard also, so I can just summon back the Granguignol. I can summon back the Mudragon if I want to. And I just go for the Albion with the Branded in red, and I draw Ash for turn, which is really good. Banish, put back in hand, and I go for the in red on ad libitum. Again, not 100% sure why they wouldn't activate preparations before, just to get something on board. But I guess they knew that once I have lost, it's like really, really good against them. And I take the Adlib, Granguignol, and Ash. Ash is not really effective, and I do want to maybe finish this turn. This Chimera cannot attack directly this turn, just so you know, because of Branded in red. If you don't know, monsters summoned by Branded in red cannot attack directly the turn that they are summoned. Don't get cheated in your locals. So, Branded in red. Now I draw 2. This is what I wanted. I wanted to draw into Branded Fusion, pop 1. They cannot respond. Get rid of the Birth. And now I do consider the possibility of an Nibiru. But now I decide to maybe go for a Dragoon, and this is testing with like a friend, so you know we can take things back, and you can also learn. If I go for a Lubellion here, what happens? I discard this to fuse, and then I don't have a negate with the Dragoon. So I decide to like put everything back, go for a Mirror Jade instead with the Granguignol that is already on the field, because I didn't want to discard or banish, or I didn't honestly want to send another light target to the graveyard. Then I just go for the Mirror Jade. Now, these two can attack directly. This cannot attack directly. But again, I still know that Preparations is on the field, so I know I have to deal with something. Yeah, I take back the Branded Opening because I didn't discard for Lubellion. And then I try to go into the battle phase, and I get hit with Nibiru. And honestly, this is the best thing that can happen to you at this point when you have Granguignol in the graveyard and when you have Kashtira Ariser. So what happens here is that these 3 get tributed. Yeah, I chain the Mirror Jade with the Nibiru just so that I can have some follow-up. Rindrum allows me to special summon the Albaz next turn from the graveyard, so it's another interruption. Get rid of all of these, and now I get to trigger both of these. Sorry, Mirror Jade and Granguignol. Because an opponent's monster was summoned by an activated monster's effect, I can summon this. I can get Perskinion, and I can get the Arise Heart back from the graveyard, which is really huge. So I do that, Perskinion, get back the Kashtira Arise Heart, and now this is like live. This is not negated by any means. So I go for the Nibiru, attack it, then, you know, you can hit, you can inflict damage based on your opponent's monster's attack if you destroy it by battle, right? During the damage step. So you hit it for 3,000. It actually gets banished, and I can attach it to Rise Heart. Yeah. I attach a card from banished, and I attach Retribution because I can bring it back to the graveyard, which is kind of genius, to be honest. Cartesia, and they draw the lance, and they scoop this one. Next game. So this is a very interesting approach, like getting rid of your Granguignol, so it's in the graveyard. When you get hit by Nibiru, it's really, really good. So now again, we go second. They open pretty good, to be honest. Like Thrust is pretty good. They can set whatever floodgate they want from the graveyard. They go for this. They don't really hit a lot. We do see the Droll, but double Ash, another Prosp, Ogre, which does nothing. Shuffle back the Droll. Everything else put back. Now we know that they have Ash, right? We know that we are playing around Ash Blossom. So Unicorn, Theosis, normal combo, and again playing around things like massive board breakers, like Raz Disciple, and like Sphere Mode and stuff like that. And they actually just end on Rise Heart Ash Blossom in hand, I don't activate any monster's effect, and I draw the Kaiju for turn. This is why it's so good, because when the Kashtira players play around Nibiru, play around Sphere Mode Lava Golem, this is when this card shines. So this is basically it. This is the main source of their interruption. Now they have Ash in hand, and we know we play around Ash and we win this game. And we have a lot of gas, to be honest, in the hand. And we also know that they have Ash, so our Thrust can be live, right? And this Kaiju serves another purpose. It blocks their field from being able to special summon monsters. This is a level 7 though, so it's a little bit risky. They have the Scarecrow Kashtira in hand, but maybe you just play another Kaiju, it's fine. Gold Sark, Tragedy, get the Aluber. I'm gonna, of course, go for the deployment before, because if they have Valor, Imperm, stuff like that, right now they can't have Imperm, but if they have anything of that sort, you just protect with the Cartesia. Aluber, search for the Branded Fusion. I'm gonna go for the Retribution to draw a card. This is really huge. This is a really huge draw, because this gets me to something that I can play. This gets me to Serenir, and then I can play. I can also get one. I can get Lost. I can get Branded Lost, and 2, I can send something to the graveyard with Serenir, so I can play better around the Ash that I know they already have. Lubellion, get the Serenir. Serenir, I tried to go for the Arise Heart here to summon the Serenir. That's pretty good. I didn't know that they have this in hand, and honestly, I had nothing to banish myself. So this was the only option, but this is another sort of interruption from their end, just to make sure I finish off this game. So Serenir, the plan has been hurt a little bit. There's a bike revving outside my window, and now I go for the Thrust, okay? Now I need to search for something good, because I can take anything to the hand, and they go for the Ash. So here I basically know, like, this is fair, because I can go for a Talents here, rip the Ash anyway, or draw 2 cards, or look at their hand entirely. And I would say it's a fair Ash. It's not the best Ash, but I would say it's fair. They know I have Branded Fusion, so it's basically like game from here. And then, just to be able to break the board, I go for the Dragoon. This is the perfect place to go for the Dragoon. You can clear out this board, you have no interruptions, and you just play. And then I also discard the Serenir, which is, again, super important, because I already have the Retribution. This is why it's so good to go for this line. Shuffle back, get the Dragoon pop, deal damage, and Serenir effect to dump Lost. I get the Lost back to my hand, activate this, send, chain 2, search for a Mercurier, which is definitely not needed, but it might be needed next turn, because I can search for Branded in red here. And then I send the Albion here, end phase I get the Cartesia. So I decide not to attack it, because I wanted to make sure that they don't have a way to special summon, like they can't Theosis for Fenrir, and I wanted to make sure that they are stuck on this, because the thing is, another really important thing that you have to remember about Scarecrow Kashtira. So this gains 300 attack and defense, so it's 300 attack, 2900. Read this. If your Kashtira or Scarecrow monster battles an opponent's monster, that monster's effects are negated until the end of the turn. So basically, if I attack with Dragoon, which is the only way I can out this, Dragoon is negated until the end phase, and if I get hit with Nibiru or something like that, I'd rather just keep this. They don't pass through Dragoon anyway, and I have tons of follow-up and a lot of power. I just negate something. This goes to 4000 and I'm Gucci. I set the in red. They go for another planet, and they have this is a pretty good hand, to be honest. They have a Unicorn here that they need to normal summon with the Birth, and a Thrust, which is probably going to be live. So now they go for the Birth, normal the Unicorn, activate the Birth to summon. You let this go through. Unless your Dragoon is threatened, you don't shotgun the effect, because then they can just go for Zeus and wipe this Dragoon off the field. So now they go for a BLS, which is interesting because it can attack over Dragoon, but during the battle phase, I just go for in red, banish the Albaz and the Grand Guignol, go for the Mirror Jade. That way I can banish the, I can just banish non-target, send the cost, go for Lost. And they wanted me to do that so they can activate the thrust. But this is the only card in hand, nothing left to do. You negate that. You negate that immediately. It goes to 4,000 and it's pretty much game from there. So yeah, I do appreciate you guys watching this. Hope you enjoyed it. Again, the build from this video is in yesterday's video, so check it out. Link is going to be up here. Thank you so much for watching. If you want early access to all of my deck lists, just make sure you join as a member to the channel. Help support me. Then you get also exclusive access to members only channel on Discord, where you can get all the deck lists early. Of course, Despia merch, galzo.shop, link in the description below. Thank you guys for watching as always. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.